Wait, how long did you start your channel? Uh, how long did you start your channel ago?
2024, May 28th.
Damn. I started mine like years ago. You start your channel ago? Anyways, there's no one else.
Oh my god, I'm going to lose. Please, I need this.
Alright, everyone, welcome back to a beautiful Sunday. We are finally back. Now, if you were here last week, you would know that we talked about the story of Abraham and Isaac, and also the story of Joseph. And after like a lot, and I mean a lot of work, I'm finally done. So yeah. Everyone, welcome to Sunday church, honestly. Now today's church, well, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll know today's church is about the story of Moses. We know Moses. Moses is a pretty popular story, I'm not gonna lie. So that is today's story. So, without further ado, I'll see you guys in about 2 minutes. Moses. You see, Moses, back in the day, he used to work in Egypt. Like, okay, so here's the deal. After what Joseph did, Egypt were happy with the Israelites. Like, believe it or not, Egyptians and Israelites were friends back then. But they saw how the Israelites were like multiplying and populating and just it was getting crazy and they didn't like it. What did they do? Well, it'll make sense what they did. What they did was the craziest thing. You see, what happened was the chicken, thank you for returning. Chuck Morris is here. Now you see, what happened was that they saw that the Israelites were populating and multiplying.
So
People didn't like that.
Please
Welcome
stop
to
shouting.
church.
Please.
I'm not shouting, it's the mic.
It's really loud. Turn it down.
I'm gonna go to my dorm room. And if you didn't know, that's my dorm room. I'm not gonna go to your dorm room, I'm gonna go to mine. So I'll see you, goodbye.
Okay, that was weird. Anyway, so the Egyptians saw the Israelites were multiplying. So what did they do? The Egyptians were murdering he logged out. The Egyptians were murdering the firstborns. They grabbed the firstborns and threw them in the Nile River. The babies were eaten by crocodiles, but guess what? There was one baby. The name was Baby Moses. And like Moses' mom, she made sure that nothing bad would happen to Moses. So you know what happened? Yeah, I know maybe the mic isn't a good idea. So you know what happened? She put Moses in a basket and sent him away. But Moses' sister was watching Moses as he was going down the river, just peacefully going down in the river, slowly but surely. And he actually ended up going to the palace, but that's what God wanted. Because instead of wanting to kill him, do you know what he did? Do you know what she did? She accepted him, and she accepted him into the family. Give me one second. Alright, so Pharaoh's wife accepted Moses into the family. I'm sitting down, by the way, that's why I'm small. Moses was accepted to the family, so it was good. A couple years went by, and Moses saw how all the Israelites were suffering, and he saw one of like the workers beating up a slave. So he pushed him, and the man died. He felt guilty for what he did, so he ran away from Egypt. He was walking for days until he found a place where he could stay. They accepted him. A couple years later, he got married, and he started working with the flocks. Now, even more years went by, and after those years went by, well, what happened was in this. This is where all this stuff starts to happen. One of the sheep ran away, like, just ran away, But Moses went after the sheep. And since Moses went after the sheep, well, that's where he encountered a bush. You heard me right, a bush. But not just any ordinary bush. This bush was on fire. The bush was flaming, but the bush wasn't burning. It wasn't turning to a dead bush. It was just on fire. Moses saw this and he came to it. He heard God talking, and God said to Moses to come to go back to Egypt to free his people. Now Moses listened to God, but he didn't know what to do. And Moses replied to God saying, "Well, how am I supposed to do it? I can't speak well." And God said to Moses that, "Who gave you a mouth to speak, ears to hear, and eyes to see?" And God said, "Well, you did." No, not God. Moses said, "Well, you did, but I just can't speak well. That's the problem." So he said, "I will lend you Moses. I will lend you Aaron, your brother, to help you speak, so that he will say the stuff for you." So they went on. So him and Aaron went. They walked all the way to Egypt until they finally made it to Israel. Now, God had a lot of things ready for Moses. Now, once they got there, Moses went into Pharaoh's kingdom. I didn't build it, but basically what happened, he went into Moses' kingdom, and Moses said, "God said to let my people go." But he didn't listen. Pharaoh didn't listen. So he said, so Moses threw a rod, and when he threw the rod turned into a snake. Pharaoh was impressed, but he made his two other magicians throw these rods as well, and there were two snakes. It was 2 against 1. But Moses' snake won and beat those two snakes. Pharaoh said to leave them and that he will never let the people go. And this, my people, is where the plagues begin. First, all the fresh drinking water was turned into blood. Next, and even he went back to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said he wouldn't let his people go. He caused the plagues of frogs so that they would, because all these plagues were only hitting Egypt. They never hit anywhere else. They only hit Egypt. And the frogs, they were disgusting back then. Like, people didn't like it. Like, they would like put germs everywhere, you know? But none of these stuff touched Israel. Next was the plague of lice, where they would infect the people. They infected all the people of Egypt, except for the Israelites. Next was the plague of the flies. The flies, once again, tempting all of Egypt. Then the plague of pestilence, where all their herds of cows and goats and sheep and all of those other animals would die. Then the plague of boils, where it would burn all the Egyptians, giving them these rashes. The plague of hail. The plague of locusts. The locusts tempted all of Egypt as well. Oh, he flew by me. Then, after all of that, Pharaoh still wouldn't let his people go. So Moses did what he had to do. The very final plague. The plague of what we like to call the plague of darkness. plague covered all of Egypt. It covered all of Egypt for 3 full days. Until finally, the 10th and last plague was here. What we now celebrate is called the Passover. The plague for the death of firstborn babies. Now, they only went, it went through all of Israel and Egypt. God's Spirit came and went around the all around. And if they didn't put the blood of a ram on their door, they would, their firstborn kids would die. But if they put the blood of the ram, like how they told them to, their firstborns would live. Finally, Pharaoh gave up and he said to never show his face around these parts or Pharaoh would kill him, and to take him and his people out of here. Finally, the sun came back. There was light. There was light. Okay, let's pretend this is Pharaoh's firstborn. He died. And after a bunch of, after they walked for a long time, they came into the ocean, and they didn't know what to do. But God told them to bring his rod up. And when Moses brought his rod up, the sea splitted in half, revealing dry ground for people to walk. People walked through here. And then after that, they saw what was going on. They saw that the Pharaoh was coming. He wanted the people to come back. So they didn't know what to do. They were freaked out. But Moses said for them not to fear, for they would be okay. So Moses once again brought his rod up, and the sea came down and crushed everyone. And all the Egyptians were free. Finally, after a while, God came down to Moses on a mountain called Mount Sinai, and he wrote the commandments. And these were the commandments that God gave to Moses. You shall not have any other gods before me. You shall not make idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord of God in vain, which means like saying, oh my God, or a bunch of other stuff. Remember the Sabbath day, which is on the Saturday, to keep it holy. Honor your father and mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, blaming someone else for something you did. And you shall not wish for others people's things. Next week, we will continue off with the story of Moses. Because once they got there, God promised to take them to the most beautiful lands of oats and honey, milk, and all they could dream of. The promised land. We're going to do the quick prayer, and then we're good, and I'll see y'all next week. Yavrecha Adonai mishmerecha, Yaver Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha, Yasem Adonai panav elecha, Yasem is shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious upon you. May the Lord shine his light upon you and give you peace wherever you go. Shalom, and I'll see you all next week. I got a lot of stuff here to delete. I kind of regret having so much stuff, but I don't think it'll be too bad. Anyway, bye everyone. Shalom. Hope to see you all next week.